That's why I asked that question of a woman in the workforce recently. Do you feel like that the positions you've held in the workforce have been because you earned it or because you were placed there? Says, well, definitely, I've earned it. And the way she put it is someone who's a disadvantaged person needs to build their advantage up. She says in the workforce that she's in, she's overqualified for every position she's applied for. Where men, on the other hand, will say, I think I could probably do that. And they're underqualified for it and they'll apply for it before they're ready. Says, before I've ever applied for anything, I made sure I was overqualified, and had plenty of capacity to accomplish the task that was required by that position. So we're having an election in this country, it appears.
Yeah, it's the year for that.
It's the year for the election.
Yep.
Happen every year?
No. It doesn't happen every year.
This election happens every 4 years. Every 4 years, the country gets to decide the direction for the next 4 years.
Yeah, does it seem like, is there some sort of election every year, or is it every other year?
No, it's every year there's elections. But the midterm election, every other year they're voting for congressmen and senators.
Okay.
So they have 6-year terms. Some of them have 6-year terms, some have 4-year terms. And the president has a 4-year term. So every 4 years you vote for a president. Every 4 or 6 years you vote for a senator or a congressman. And I'm not sure which. I think the congressmen have 6-year terms and the senators have 4-year terms.
And then you have all of your local ones in between?
In the middle. All the local ones just happen when they need to, but they're all on that same election date, first week in November. The state and the city and all that stuff all happen on the same day. Primaries happen at different times. Unless you're a Democrat, then you don't have primaries.
Why don't you have primaries if you're a Democrat?
Because they kicked Biden out. They didn't have a primary this year. They eliminated everyone from voting. So this is the problem with this year. This year, what turns us into a monarchy, like perchance, or an autocracy anyway. From that Democratic platform standpoint, they didn't let the primaries run in the spring as you normally would have. So there was no chance for Joe Biden to be challenged by anybody. He was just a shoo-in. And then they took him out of the race after the debate, put Kamala in. She hadn't had any votes for her in her life in a primary election. And so now she's the front runner, and they're running her without being elected by the people. Still on the platform that they are listening to the voice of the people. And that's why the convention was surprising to me a little bit. I would have expected more dissent against Kamala and how she did that, how they did that.
As I understand, there was a lot of protests going on outside of the...
Yeah. What were they for?
Oh, I don't know. I just assumed that they were protesting the whole thing.
You just understood. No, they were Palestinian things generally.
Oh, were they?
Mostly.
Oh.
There were probably other protests against everything, but the Republican National Committee didn't have to put a fence around their convention. Their convention was just open and friendly.
Yeah.
The Democrats had to put a fence outside because they knew they were being protested. Why does a group have to be protested? What would cause a group to need to be protested?
Because people don't like what they're doing.
They're doing something wrong. But then you relate that to a general conference in a church. Why would a church be protested? But still, the church doesn't build fences and say protesters stay outside these lines.
They do say protesters stay outside these lines, but they don't build fences.
They say stay on the sidewalk, public property.
Yeah, you have to be off of the church's property.
Off of private property. And it's just interesting that the votes, as they went through, there were only a handful of votes in each state that abstained from voting for Kamala Harris.
Only a handful?
Only a handful,
Why
yeah.
do you
7
think?
or 10 or 8 voted present out of 200 that voted for the nominee. That means that those 8 or those 10 or that handful, probably, and I don't know, it seems like there's probably 2,000 votes in the convention, probably 200, 1% was abstained from voting as they didn't want the way it was processed. the preceding.
Yeah.
They wanted to have a primary, and they could have had a primary, but they decided, the powers that be in the Democratic Party decided not to have a primary and just install their nominee for president.
But that means that the rest of them were okay with it.
Yes. So 99% of the Democrat convention agreed with it and were enthused and excited.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting.
it is interesting. The other interesting thing about the convention, did you watch the convention?
I only watched the few speeches that I was interested in.
Okay. So you weren't interested in the party of the convention.
There was a party?
Have you gone to conventions? Do you like, yeah, there was a party. Do you like conventions? Have you liked conventions?
I do. The conventions that I've attended, I really enjoy. Yeah. Even if it was something that I wasn't invested in emotionally before. I mean, it's like going to a theme park. Like, everyone there is there because they want to be there, and you get the feeling of being part of a club, and everyone's invested, you know?
Yeah, there's a unity. And I expected that, based on the way they did that the Democratic convention would be muffled or muted a little bit, and not all 100% on, but they filled the place. That was surprising, with people that were all on and excited.
When you say they filled the place, do they pick the people that go, or you can just buy tickets and go?
Well, in order to go to the national convention, you have to be a delegate. So you've got to be a delegate elected by your state to go.
Okay.
But the states filled it with the people. So yeah, they probably were invited and requested and, asked. You have to get people that are willing to go, and then that want to be there. I don't know if there was a cost. I'm not sure costs for conventions, if each delegate pays their own way or pays to get, part of the facility, or facilities paid for by the national committee. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I heard talk that there were like undercover people there too. How would someone want to attend as a Republican undercover as a Democrat if they're sent there by their states?
Yeah, by the state. Well, you can volunteer in the state and say, I want to be a Democrat delegate, or I'll go with the delegation to the place. You have celebrities. I mean, anyone. I guess you just have to get an invitation.
Oh.
Or the other way people did it undercover. Matt Walsh went in there. I don't know if you saw that or anything about that.
I heard, yeah.
Yeah, that he went in with a press pass. I mean, the press has the ability to go in.
Oh, okay.
And so you get a press pass to go to the convention. So there's ways to get in, and people are invited, but to be a delegate to vote, you've got to be elected through your state. However, that's done through caucuses or the primary election. The interesting the party of it is for the Democrats, it was a party. It was like a rave.
Uh-huh.
They were totally out of control. And you look at the people, the decorum of the people in the party, T-shirts and wild hair and hats, they were showy. They weren't business. It wasn't a business meeting for them. It was a party for the Democrats.
Yeah. There was a lot of applause before even anyone got to speak.
Yeah, in both of them. I mean, you do that. You have a regular amount that the party crowd did applaud longer, and I don't know if they had to be told to calm down. Let's get back to
Kamala kept saying, "We got to get to business. Let's get down to
business. Let's get to business." Yeah, but they're more there for the view of themselves. The crowd at the Republican National Committee was more a business dress, like a business event. You saw some hats. You saw the hats, but the hats were not with T-shirts. I guess there were some T-shirts there too, but it wasn't the majority were in T-shirts in the Democratic convention.
Yeah. So you weren't there, but what you're describing is what you've seen on the videos you've watched?
If you watch the TV, you watch the television, the broadcast of the convention. So I watched the broadcasts of them, and they pan the crowd quite often, and they show all the celebrities that are in the crowd.
Okay.
So The conventions were both done well as a party. So I think they worked just fine to support what they're supporting. So the question really is, what did the convention represent, or what do the parties represent involved in this election? Is that what we want to talk about?
Yeah.
What would you want to talk about?
I have questions, I guess.
The parties and everyone else in the election.
Yeah, so this election, I've never paid so close attention to elections because it feels like I have no power in any of it. Like, is there something where if the popular vote is different than normal, then they will go with the popular vote instead of the electoral votes?
The Electoral College.
Like, how do we don't know who the electors are.
The electors, well, yeah, we do know. The electors are identified. They're the people who went to the conventions. The people who go to the convention, the electors are based on the popular vote in the state. They have to vote according to what the people tell them to vote. It's a representative electorship is the way I understand it.
So are they individual people?
Maybe it's different. They are individual people. They vote their election, but they vote their electoral vote for the segment of people they represent in the state. And if the popular vote comes through that says this part of the state now votes for, what's his name, Oliver?
Yeah, Chase Oliver.
Chase Oliver. Then that electoral vote will go towards the Libertarian.
So it's still...
So it's possible, and that's what RFK was talking about. He could get electoral votes in a number of states.
Yes.
And getting those, he had a path to the presidency. But when he backed out, when he backed out of the campaign, he says, we've determined that we didn't really have a clear path to the presidency anywhere where I am. That's why I'm suspending my campaign and supporting the one that can win.
The one that can win. The lesser of two evils.
If you take Chase Oliver's stance.
The lesser of three evils?
Well, no, he said, what was it? Chase Oliver, I listened to one interview from him, and he said, gun to your head, who would you select, Biden or Trump? And he said, the gun would go off.
Yeah, he said neither. I would not choose either of them.
The gun would go off if it were up to me. If that were my choice, I'm not choosing either of those. So that's the conviction of your position.
Yeah. Okay, where do I find out who the electors are?
Electoral College. You have to probably just search that. But...
Well, I searched it, and there's information from 2020, but not for this year. Have they chosen the people for this year already? Are they chosen? How does that work?
I would expect that they are, because they're elected as, well, the state delegates are the electors for that state. And they're the ones that cast the vote for president.
So delegates and electors are synonymous?
Yeah, I think they're the same. And the state has 30 or 50 or something. They've got a number of delegates based on population in the country. And those electors are the ones that convene the Electoral College. And they're supposed to identify I guess it's possible, I don't know, if they can vote differently than their populace says.
Well, that's a vote of no confidence or something. There's something, I remember looking into this 4 years ago because I'm like, well, I should pay attention to the elections. I should see if I even need to vote, and am I throwing my vote away by voting Libertarian? And I remember not being able to find the information I was looking for. Like, I couldn't find the electors' names. I couldn't find how the electors, are there people emailing them and saying, hey, vote for this guy, and then they count up how many people want to vote for this guy? It just feels like the government is still too big. There's no way I can influence anything still.
No, it's automatic when the electors will go the direction of the state vote.
They'll go the direction of how they feel like everybody wants.
It's the popular vote that runs the electors. The popular vote runs the electors. The electors are just the official recording of that popular vote for an area.
Okay, so
that's where last election when Trump said he won Georgia, he was about up 40,000 when the polls closed. And then all of a sudden, after the election, after the closing the polls, there were 40 million votes or something that came in and flipped it to the other side. Said, so there's no way that could have happened. So that's why he's calling that. And of course, he calls it a stolen election, and that things like that happened after the polls closed. They all of a sudden got all these ballots and put them in, counted. The elector had to vote the other way.
Okay.
So the elector doesn't have a choice. They're not voting their conscience. They're voting the mandate of the popular vote.
I see. So they're not making the decision. It's still
right.
How many votes?
Yeah, they're not being swayed. They can't be swayed by anything. They've got to vote what the numbers say.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know. I don't know any electors. I've never spoken with an elector. Haven't gotten to that point. So that's that level 4. That's the level 4, and we're talking about community.
They're so far away from you that
a
normal will never even see them.
Normal tier 1 or tier 2 person has no idea what tier 4 is.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about. That's why there's confusion. In tier 2, you don't know what tier 4 is doing, and there's just trust and confidence. There's faith and confidence in the U.S. government that it's working, but you don't know.
Yeah.
And the information they're putting online, you can see the map, you can look for things, but you don't find exactly how it works. So be hard to locate, like you indicated. But I'm sure it could be searched out and found. You might even be able to volunteer to be one of the electors and be elected to that position, because it is, a person has to fill that seat. So
right. So voting third party, though.
Whether you throw away your vote, that was your question. Is it possible to throw away a vote?
That was my question 4 years ago. It might still be my question this year.
It was, that's what Robert F. Kennedy, Bobby, gave that explanation. He says that I will be a disruptor if I'm on the ballots in these states. I don't want to be a disruptor. I'd like to throw my support behind what we can win. And since Trump said, I agree with your Make America Healthy Again concept, let's add it. So they've joined forces somewhat.
Yeah. Okay, I have another question.
Yeah.
It's not related to the elections. My question, do presidents even have any power? Like, can they even fulfill anything that they campaigned with? All of the promises that they make, are they even able to follow through?
Right. And see, you like Chase Oliver talked about, he was a Democrat supporting Obama against the war. And it turns out that Obama went through the war just the same. He didn't change anything, was just as much against it or much for it and following through, because he couldn't close the war and bring everybody home like he said in his promises.
Right.
So they are that's the idea of balance of powers. Congress has to send people to war, and Congress has to stop the war, I would guess. You can't just turn a war off or turn one on. But all these promises, and that's really a point I'd like to discuss too, is the platforms. I read through both platforms. Yeah, the 91-page.
You read through all, let's see, how many
91-page Democratic platform and all of their stuff.
Uh-huh.
And the 12-page or 14-page, I think it is. 21 pages for the Republican?
No, it's 21 pages.
First 3?
Well, after
it's only 16.
the summary.
14 pages
preamble.
Of writing. There's 2. Just the way I printed it is only 14 pages.
It's 2 photos.
But the idea, they're both promising the same things. I mean, you've got to promise something to the American people that they're going to say, yeah, this works for me.
Yeah, that's what I noticed too. I skimmed through it and I'm like, these are both very authoritarian. Like, we're going to take care of you, and there will be some costs, but we're going to take care of you.
We're going to take care of you. Authoritarian. And it's showing, I mean, all of the words, so they talk about the same things. The Republican platform is condensed, and it says these are the important issues, and this is why, and we're looking at doing this, and they identify a reason. He says, I'm going to defund the schools because we don't want political indoctrination of our children. So and it's just a simple reason. The Democratic platform is talking about that, goes through a whole word salad. It says a lot of stuff about everything we've done and trying to promote all the stuff that the presidency has done in the last 4 years and how good the economy is going.
Yeah.
And from the Republican side, the economy is horrible. Nothing's going right. And they're just saying which way people feel. So it was Ronald Reagan's question from years ago. Just ask yourself, are you better now than you were 4 years ago? Or are you worse now than you were 4 years ago?
Yeah. So the Democratic Party uses their platform, at least this time, to point out the differences between.
And are they really differences? So my read of that, the Democrats are stating their slant on everything that Trump did. They go and tell all the good positive sides of what they do, whether they actually did it or not.
Yeah.
And really there's no action in it. I identified again and again that it's saying Biden proposed or supported or encouraged, determined to do
Right.
this. Whether they did anything or not, they're not saying that we did this and here's the proof that this is better. They're saying this is our goal. This is where we're headed. So there's a lot of that. It's innuendo. It's saying our intention is this. And because our intention is this, it's good. And the other side will, and they're stating definitely Trump is an idiot. He's going to ruin everything. He's going to close everything down. And trying to break the Affordable Care Act, ACA. So repealing the Affordable Care Act. And they identify that 10 or 12 places with different things, saying what that's going to do is cause pre-existing conditions to be out, or it's going to cause much higher expenses for.
It's not like it might cause this.
Yeah, it will.
It's like,
It
and
will.
this is the consequence.
Yeah, you vote Trump in, you're going to lose all
Definitely
of your
gonna happen.
privileges and all of your rights. So they're lying about that, about a lot of things, and they state the lie almost as a fact, and that it's an absolute fact, even in the platform. And I'm surprised that platforms they talk about misinformation. There's misinformation, and perhaps even on both sides. You look at the things that they say they're doing good in the Democratic platform, and that is pointed to as a thing that's breaking the country on the Republican side.
Yeah.
So both of them are, it's propaganda. It's the mudslinging, and it's misinformation. And these are official documents that are not fact checked or proven.
Right. But they're intended to represent everything that
they stand
this
for.
Presidential candidate stands for.
So in general, the stance of the three parties involved, since there was an independent party, but he's joined in with the Republican Party saying, I believe in this stance as well. The Libertarian stance clearly is different.
It is clearly different.
And it's small government. It's get government out of the way. Let's let the people govern themselves. Is that possible? Is it possible? Could the people govern themselves?
I predict that if we snapped our fingers and were instantly have a libertarian government with all of the rules and regulations that we don't like done away with, and ones that are libertarian and value are there, but at the same time the people haven't gone through a process of degovernmenting,
A transition to
like how you
to
have
small government instead of big government. Big brother
Yeah.
getting
If
smaller.
the people haven't gone through some transition, then
It would take time to transition that. That's my point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is, we would live in chaos for a
And
little bit.
it would be chaos if they tried to do it quickly. So doing it slowly is really the only feasible way to do that. Both of them, the Libertarians and the Republicans, want to get rid of the National Education Association. Let's drop the federal control of education. Get the federal funding out of it.
They both want that, but
Yes.
what are the reasons they want to get rid of
The
it?
same, I believe it's the same reason. They want to put control back in the families. So the Republican platform clearly says we believe, we trust parents. Parents are going to be the ones that select what education to do with their kids, and we want to support the parents in that education. That's the same thing libertarians say. We believe that families can make the choice for their kids
Yeah.
completely and not be governed by this socialist, communist idea that we have to tell you what to teach your kids. So I think they're both exactly on the same page. Now, Chase Oliver didn't agree. He didn't say that, yeah, they're more libertarian. He says that he's still big government. They're still not. Trump couldn't be a libertarian, even any of his policies.
So what are you saying? The Republican platform is libertarian,
There
or
are parts
just the
that are
education part?
that they completely agree. Well, like RFK coming into the Republican idea, he has that agreement. The one agreement that we've got to fix this. What is it called? Chronic disease, which in the 60s didn't exist, and now is 80% of the population is under chronic conditions that have to be treated with medications and
Yeah.
all this stuff that we think is very important. But that has to be turned back. We have to get back to a healthy, American-made healthy again. Make America great again. That idea, I mean, from the Democratic standpoint, they say America is great. It's always been great. Why would you have to make it great again? We're getting greater all the time. So I say, what are you trying to do? You take us back to something you thought was great in the past. We won't go back. That's one of their slogans. And so they're promoting these things, these ideas that the people are glomming onto and understanding. So Make America Great Again is saying, let's go back 50 years in our mentality and not advance. But Make America Great Again is a statement of going to the future and advancing, and all the stuff that they say that Trump isn't going to do, that things represent is going to take us backwards. It does take us forward. It's a different perspective. So my overall view of the two party platforms is they're clearly globalist and socialist on the Democratic side. Clearly they don't want to be, they say want to strengthen the nation, but in the realm of working with our allies and in our world position. They're emphasizing we've got to be democratically connected to the world, diplomatically connected to the world, and not in a power status. And that is saying that we've got to get our global economy to work together. So that's a globalist idea. All of their page, about every page, I was able to identify the globalist idea and also the subsidized idea, the idea that government is going to provide the ability to get, they talk about building up from the bottom up and the inside out. With the Democratic platform, the way they're proposing to do that is by supplying federal money to the bottom to get them to rise with federal money, and inside out to provide, well, in the best case, capitalistically, is to provide federal jobs, more and more federal jobs for people to work, which is still the taxpayer supplying the funds to support these people and make them middle class.
Right.
And so that's their whole answer. Every page has that subsidy concept and the globalist concept on it.
Yeah. Tell me about the globalist issue. What's
wrong
is
with
wrong
that?
with that?
Well, the alternative of that is the nationalist issue, which is America first. And they talk against Trump's America first concept. America first concept hurts us globally, hurts us in Africa. Why are we in Africa anyway? Africans are taking care of Africa. I don't know. But that's that mindset. If you're of a nationalist concept, you say, let's take care of our home ground, our homeland. Let's make sure that we're secure here. Let's build the border. Let's keep ourselves operate. Let's get ourselves energy independent. Let's try to provide all of the stuff we need instead of requiring trade with everyone else. Now, Chase Oliver also has that globalist idea. He says, let's eliminate tariffs. Let's eliminate the country boundaries he's really kind of proposing and have free trade with everybody. And that free trade, we can stand up to it, which I don't know that that's feasible, that in this developed nation that we can stand up to the third world, undeveloped, low wage, $10 a day payments in China, that they're building the same things to the same standards. Those prices are clearly going to be a lot lower than what we can produce here, trying to make $20 an hour for our low end employees, or 14.
Yeah.
So there's economic challenges with what the libertarians are proposing as a globalist economy, but I see that as a globalist, as opposed to nationalist, as opposed to saying, let's supply everything we need in our own house here. Let our economy be perfect and strong and deal with them as we need to.
So one thing I'm thinking about is we are Americans, but we are also humans, and we want to care for other humans, whether they're Americans or not.
So we are all earthlings, humans,
right?
And we're of this planet, and so the planet is important.
But we don't want to take care of them with government oversight. We want to participate in humanitarian aid on the personal level. Like I have a capacity to help, and I will help with what I have.
And even if you go through an organization, you go through a church with humanitarian services or fast offerings, or go through American Red Cross with your donations, that helps. They can say, I'll take your donations across the world and help Africans
right
when they need it.
Right.
So you can trust individual privatized groups. You don't have to trust the U.S. government to. The one thing I found interesting is they created 250,000 jobs in Venezuela. That's one of Kamala's things that I never heard them say it before. I've never heard it anywhere else, but it's in the platform.
Yeah.
So why are we building businesses and careers in Venezuela?
Yeah, because it helps other people.
It helps the root cause, stopping the root cause of migration, making sure they have work in their own countries. It makes sense if you're a globalist. And that's why it makes sense to the Democrats.
Yes.
Because they want to solve the problems everywhere in the world.
So say again the reason globalism is bad.
Well, and who knows if it's bad or it's good. It's different. And it's not something that I would do. It's like globalism is taking care of everybody else. And I would do it most likely. Probably a communal narcissist will want to be out there in the field helping everyone else and ignore his own home. We were talking about that tier one, your family. If the tier one doesn't work and you're a communal narcissist out in the world doing everything else, but your homeland is under very high inflation and they're fighting each other, divisive, division, and all kinds of things happening here, but you don't care about that because you're helping China and you're getting Obama got his Nobel Prize for Peace, Nobel Peace Prize, for being out in the world and trying to solve all the world's problems.
Yeah.
But he ignored the U.S. in those time frames. Didn't ignore. I guess he operated what he could do. But what he could do was making us more globalist.
Right.
So it's paying attention to everyone outside in tier 2 and tier 3 and just not worrying about tier 1. Tier 1 is just part of tier 2. That's the other thing Trump has said is if you go to a globalist economy, we're going to take our economy down to the level of everyone else. We're going to match us all. We will all own nothing and be happy. That's the status. And that has to be the status of a globalist economy. We're going to all be in the same realm. Everyone's going to be middle class. And you won't have any billionaire or high rollers. You'll have all their wealth will be taken away and spread out so that Africa can have running water and infrastructure and streets.
So you're saying that so far we haven't been able to be globalist and also nationalist at the same time. Like it's one or the other. There's no balance. Or, I mean, like if we're talking about communities, you say we definitely have to focus all of our attention on our nation, our home first and then get it perfect before we...
You have to, and perfect. We weren't talking about perfection. Even with the communities, tier one has to be stable and comfortable to allow you to step out to tier two.
Yeah.
Tier zero, your person has to be healthy and strong enough to serve your family in order to be able to serve that. We talked about that. So it's the same idea. Nationalism is the local. You make sure your local city is operating well before you worry about how to deal with your state. If you go and solve the state and your city's falling apart, that doesn't work.
But what do you do if your state keeps invading your city, like trying to make problems?
Right.
Or like as far as the nation goes, what do you do if you keep having immigration issues because you could help the globe, but you're like, well, sucks to be you guys. I'm going to make my place as appealing as possible for you and yet still not let you in.
They'll keep you out. Okay, you're relating it specifically to immigration.
Well, yeah, didn't you just say that's that's one reason they created so many jobs in Venezuela, was if you help their home, help them be able to stay.
Right, keep them from, so that they don't have to migrate this way. And they don't talk about it as illegal immigration. And the Democratic platform, and what they're talking about is migration. It's a standard pattern. It happens everywhere, but we just got to be able to manage it. So they're managing migration by saying, okay, migrate now to Colombia and Venezuela because we created all these jobs. There's companies down there. But where are they getting the companies to hire that 250,000 people? They took them from the U.S. because, I don't know, maybe that's what they did. That's the question that's there.
Uh-huh.
Where did they come from? How did they create those jobs
in a
foreign country?
From? Could they have been just as well set up here and benefited our people and left them alone?
Right. So, and how did they do that? Usually when they're talking about this, the subsidy concept in the Democratic platform, they're putting $20 billion and $50 billion towards this and towards that. And that's how they're doing. They're identifying, we dedicated $50 billion to help this area. And maybe 10 billion, 20 billion, 50 billion is not very much, but it's still taxpayer money that they're dedicating to these causes outside of our inflation is going up.
Yeah.
Our tax rates are going up.
What if they didn't use taxes for that?
Well, let's talk about that community again. You said, what if your state is battling your city?
Yeah.
What do you do if the state, if the globe is causing undue stress on your country and causing your country to break down? Even with that specific illegal immigration, they're sending all of their prisoners from Trump's standpoint. What he's saying, all their prisoners and insane asylums, they emptied those out and sent them to the U.S. because now the borders are open. Let them take care of you guys. So they come in, they say, I'm seeking asylum. And then they're said, your court date's in 9 years or 4 years or something. So just kind of realm around. Here's your social security card. You can go find a job, do something until your court date comes up. So it's fiction in the system. That's the other thing that Chase Oliver talked about. He says, you just have to make it quicker. They have to be able to make a decision right now. And you're allowed in, just like Ellis Island. You tell me who you are, and I'll do a quick check on you. If your credit passes, then you're in. Mm-hmm. You're a citizen at that minute, that second. Don't let it be even 6 months time frame.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Just let them come in. The first thing the city has to do if the state is bothering it, the city can't just, all individuals go and battle the state individually. They have to go with a contingent. They have to be strong. The city has to pull together and say, this is who we are. And with this strength, now we're going to go and tell the state to leave us alone.
Okay. So that's the protecting.
Yeah. If the state is after you, globalism is after you.
You put up the walls and you stick out your guns and you're like, okay, you come any closer and something's going to happen.
You set up your boundaries. This is the boundary. If you do this, we will react.
So, but
this way.
What about if you send people out of your city into the state to try and influence the state change? Like,
you have to do that from a position of strength. The city has to send them out.
So you have to put up your walls and stick up your guns at the same time.
And that's really what we're seeing with the platforms. I mean, the Democratic platform says the globe is the most important thing, and their big linchpin or their big talking point is climate change. Everyone that's a Democrat that's following that platform and promoting that says the earth is going to break if we continue doing what we're doing. So we have to change. So they've got this climate change issue. That's why they have to deal with the whole world. That's why globalism is necessary, because the whole world has to get on board.
Because Democrats think that we have any influence in what the world is going to do.
Yeah. They think that this is the big problem that we have some effect on, and we have to warn the whole world to change and help them change. And that's what their whole issue is in the world, is they're going out with that story. So anyone who believes that story, who believes that we have any effect on the climate and that our effect is negative and we have to change everything, we have to change all of the way we do everything. So they have that story, and people who believe in that story are going to vote for them 100%. They're the only ones that believe the story that, I have a belief in my body and I have faith, I want to follow it. Faith is voting for that belief.
And the story is that we can influence the Earth's climate.
Right.
Well, I mean,
and that we are influencing it, and that we are breaking it.
We are influencing it, and maybe we're breaking it. I think, this is my belief on climate change or global warming or whatever. I believe that the Earth is going to die someday, and the inhabitants on it do influence that in one way or another. And
do they have a responsibility?
The problem is the responsibility, like if we do have a responsibility, that only delays the inevitable. It's going to happen. And why?
It's bigger than us then.
It is bigger. It's the sun. The sun is dying, and it's going to destroy our planet. So that's going to happen at some point. The sun explodes.
So you have that. You have Planet X or Meteor X that could hit the Earth at any time.
Yeah, and if the polar ice caps all melt and the coastlines disappear, that's going to happen someday. Like, you can delay it, but it is going to happen. We're not going to bring back those ice caps.
And if another ice age happens and the U.S. is under ice, as it has been before, that's going to happen too.
That will happen, and either humans will adapt or we will die. I don't think everybody will die. I think there will be some populations that can adapt better than other populations.
Right.
And that's really sad that some populations will not survive. But that's a fact of life. It can't be avoided.
Right. What I've heard the phrase before, I don't know that I've heard it recently, bleeding heart liberal, the one who cares for all those, it's sad that population has to die. That population that's in the middle of the hurricane, and the hurricane's going to take out that section of Puerto Rico. A big part of the platform is preparing us for these natural disasters that occur and making sure that we're helping everyone be secure in those disasters. I'm sure there are hurricanes in Africa also that we never hear about.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Yeah, all sorts of natural disasters are happening all over the place. People die, other people survive, but that's the nature of living on an Earth.
Yeah. On an Earth that we don't control. We didn't make it. We don't even know how it stays in orbit, really. You got the sun that's going to blow up. You have Planet X that's coming out. You've got Betelgeuse that's going to blow up. And in the next little while, the gamma rays are going to ruin our magnetic field. And so it's going to flip. I've heard that discussion too. And when the magnetic fields flip on the Earth, it's possible that they'll flip.
Mm-hmm.
And when it happens, how are we going to deal with it? It's something that we didn't cause. We're not going to cause any of this stuff that happens.
Right.
And it's presumptuous to think that we are big enough and strong enough as a people on the Earth, 7 billion of us, 700 billion, whatever the number is, to affect the way that this Earth operates.
Right. Now, there is something to be said about pollution and the health of the healthiness of the air that we're breathing,
environment,
and the water that we drink and the food that we eat.
And what is there to be said about that?
Well, those are things that...
What do you believe?
those are things that we can control, that we have influence over.
We can get rid of the copper pipes in the country, or the lead pipes that have had water processing to them since the 40s. That's the big thing that's in the platform that the Democrats point out. That's what they're doing with
They're getting rid of the lead in our water,
right,
or they want to
in the pipes. The Trump had done nothing about that, nothing for that, and because of that, so he's ignoring and not doing anything about the people. He doesn't care about the people in the country,
about the health
but
of the
we
people.
care, because we're going to change the lead pipes and make sure that they're all appropriate and healthy water. We want everyone to have healthy water and healthy air. The sun this morning, we saw it. Mom took a picture of it. It was completely red. I mean, it was completely up and red. Looked like a moon. Looked like the moon because of the smoke that's in the. And it was just after it came up over the mountain. We were out there. By the time it got up 5 degrees or so above the mountain, it started being yellow, and you couldn't look at it again. But you could just see it. It was just red, a red moon.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool, but it's because the smoke, and I didn't really even notice the smoke. I can't smell it. I can't see it here in the valley, but apparently in the atmosphere, it's rolling right across. And so it hasn't settled down. I can see it on the tops of the mountains, but again, I can't smell that it's smoke here. It hasn't settled into the valley. It's just blowing over the top. But it has to be because of Oregon and California fires. And that happens all the time, and that's part of the air pollution. But again, the Democrats say if we operate correctly, we don't have to have that. We don't have to live inside of that. We can make our greenhouse be smoke-free.
Right.
I don't know that we have that much control, and we probably don't have that much control.
Yeah. So you have the two parties that see these issues and they want to use the government to fix these issues. And then would you say libertarians see these issues and agree that these issues need to be fixed, but it's not the government's job to fix it? We don't want the government to fix this, actually. It's not whether it's their job or not. It's, please keep your fingers out of this pie.
Right.
These issues can be fixed closer to home.
In the family can fix all the issues it can. If there's smoke flying over, that smoke really doesn't matter. A libertarian would say, let the forest burn. When the forest fire catches fire, get out. If your home is built there and you built your home in the forest, you enjoyed it for a while, but that forest is now eating you up. So get out.
Well, and
find another forest to live in.
You can do what you can to keep your house from burning, but
we're not going to guarantee that you can live in the forest. The forest is going to burn.
Yeah, that's the nature.
So you have to
realize
that we're on this earth, and this earth has these proclivities, and it's going to do something. It's going to global warm, and it's going to heat, and it's going to freeze. So it does what it does, and you have to accommodate it. You have to accept what's happening.
Adapt your life to meet the earth,
to meet the environment. And if there are bears in the woods and they are threatening your house, maybe you don't live in the woods because the bears are living there.
Yeah.
You have to recognize their right to live in the woods. And if the bears start coming to the city, maybe that city is too close to the woods. I don't know. The bears don't want to be around people necessarily. So the libertarian concept is let people do what they do and let industry and private industry solve all the problems. Innovation, if you allow innovation to go without having to get all these licensings, all the licenses, that's what they say, scale back all of the requirements to have innovation. Let people innovate. They're going to come up with things that will surprise everybody. And these problems will be solved quickly. Just like all the engines that were brought out, that our internal combustion engine, that any other alternative is bought out by the oil companies saying, no, we're going to just shelve this idea. I bought that patent. They're going to buy the patent for $30 million and put it on the shelf and never use it because it goes against the way the industry's running. So that's possible.
Yeah. Okay. So like we said before, if we just jump straight into a libertarian government, there would be chaos. It has to be a gradual transition. I still feel like that end point would be ideal. Having a libertarian government where everyone has transitioned is an ideal situation.
Right. Yeah, it's ideal. I believe it is. And I believe it can't be It can't be jumped to. You can't just jump out of the brave new world back to or forward to. You talked about back to agrarian society. We don't really want to go back to agrarian society. We want to use the agrarian principles of people are responsible for their own world, their own farm. We want to use those principles in the future with AI and with computers and with travel. We don't have to go back. They're promoting the Democrats saying we won't go back. Nobody wants to go back. We want to use those strong principles in the future. We don't want to be socialist in the future because that would be going back to socialist ideas. Government paying for everything. Big government is wrong. Of the two platforms that have the chance to win in this election, the globalist, socialist platform is the Democratic platform saying, let us take care of you. Big government, bigger government. Even in the last pages of the Democratic platform, it says that Trump, in his 4 years in his time there, had less federal employees than when he started. So he decreased government. That's a good thing, libertarian-wise.
Right. Okay.
Okay, smaller government. It says Trump was the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. That's a good thing.
We're talking about like 100 maybe, right?
Maybe 100, hopefully 1,000 less, because he was deregulating. He was going through deregulation, and that's a lot of what they claim is he's taking away services from the people by deregulating and closing down things. That's what the libertarians want to do. Trump is more on the libertarian standpoint. That's why you need to try to identify in the Republican Party what type of libertarian ideas are being promoted and how to slowly scale back to get to that.
But the problem is you're still voting for Republican. Like you're saying,
well,
these ones have the only chance to win, but the only way that the world can move, not the world, the nation, the only way the nation can move towards libertarian is when it starts seeing more people want libertarian. If people keep voting Republican or Democrat, like they're like, I can see these libertarian values in here and I'm voting for those, but I have to vote for Democrat or for Republican because that's who's going to win. You're
throwing your vote away.
You're showing the nation that you're not showing that you care about libertarian values. You're showing that you care about Republican values when you vote Republican. Even the parts that you don't like. It's like being a member of a community where you're like, these people are my friends, even though I don't believe in all of the bad things that they do. I like the people, so I'm going to stick with this group. And so if more people vote libertarian and stop throwing their vote away on Republican and Democrat, then the nation will see, oh, wait a minute, people want more liberty. They want more freedom from government oversight.
Right. They want small government or no government. Let's let ourselves, mind your own business.
Well,
who was it? Yeah, even
there is a
Waltz,
role of government that is important.
Waltz stated
it's
that.
Just more protect instead of oversee.
Right. And the Democrats think they're following that plan. Waltz in his speech specifically said, mind your own business, talking about of course, their thing is on the abortion rights and Roe versus Wade, getting into the bedroom with people and
mind
saying
your own
that's
business
what Trump
on
is
this
doing.
topic, but then at the same time, don't mind your own business on these other topics.
Let us be fully involved in your life and giving you jobs and giving you money and making sure that your kids are eating. That's one big program. That's a big socialist platform, is feed all kids all summer and all winter long, breakfast and lunch. Everyone has the right to a free meal.
Right.
And the government's going to pay for it. And if you close that program down, if the libertarians close that program down, all of a sudden people are saying you're starving our kids. You're starving 2 million children. So they're putting these things in place that it's hard to get it out because people start depending on it. And now that's their livelihood. So what is it that I determined based on that scheme? I said from birth to what the first thing is with families. So a welfare mom, they're promoting welfare moms doing this continuously. For each child, you get an additional child tax credit. So you get money, you get free money, you get welfare money, you get WIC money coming in for each child. but also the government's saying we're going to agree to feed them for breakfast and lunch for their whole life up through their education. So you don't have to feed them anymore. You're going to get the WIC money, and you can use that for you and for everyone else you want to. You can buy your drugs with it, whatever.
You can't buy your drugs with WIC money.
You can't?
No.
You think that doesn't happen?
That WIC is like vouchers and a card that you can only use at certain stores on certain products.
Right. So is there a way that you could use it to buy drugs?
Well, if you buy those products and then you sell those products for money, I guess you can use that cash to buy drugs.
Or if you take the person in there that has the drugs and say, I'm going to give you this bread and cheese and milk. You can take the milk. You give me the thing you have in your pocket.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with buying drugs? Huh?
That's right.
The only
libertarian
wrong
concept
thing
of
about
that.
buying drugs is when you start giving it to your kids.
Well, what's wrong with that either? The libertarian idea is let people go or legalize everything. It's the prohibition on it that causes the black market.
Yeah.
If it were just free trade, let it be free trade. I mean, if you want to buy drugs, buy drugs.
Right.
If you want to be a drug addict and ruin your life and poison yourself, do it. That'll get rid of you faster. But what's that to me? I'm minding my own business. I'm going to take care of my family. You take yours the way you want. If you want to feed them drugs and you guys die next week, it's fine with me.
Well, I don't think anybody outwardly said, so what if you die?
He wouldn't say that, but he says, I'm minding my own business.
I take care of my family.
So an alternative platform would say, what he's saying in effect is, I don't care about whether you die or not, which really, that may be the way it is. So you don't have to protect people from drugs or from harmful effects. He says, use the police to protect from crime. If you're not bothering your neighbor, if all you're doing is hurting yourself, then you have every right to do that.
Yeah.
And government standards say, we're concerned if you're hurting yourself too.
Right.
So this bleeding heart liberal, this idea is, I want to make sure no one has the chance to drink alcohol, poison into their bodies. So we're going to prohibit it in this country. And that just brought up the mobs, and the black market opens up. And so the black market in drugs, fentanyl. If you make fentanyl legal and anyone can buy it, and it's for sale at the grocery stores, it won't have it near the value.
Yeah. Do you think in that situation there would still be age limits? Like you can't buy these drugs
or
unless
alcohol?
you're 18 or 21 or, yeah, just like alcohol. In the libertarian platform, it said, if you're old enough to vote, then you're old enough to drink. And I think science has shown that your brains are still growing until you're like 24 or 25.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if the legal age to vote should even be
18.
Yeah, no, up to like 24 or 25. If you're going to say once you have adequate judgment to vote and serve on a jury or in the military, so this is in the libertarian platform from 2022. I don't know if they've updated it for this year yet or if there's gonna, but this is the only one I could find. So Section 1.6, once individuals are presumed to have adequate judgment to vote and serve on a jury or in the military, they should also be presumed to have sufficient judgment to decide their own purchase and use of alcohol, tobacco, firearms, cannabis, and engage in other activities currently restricted by government due to age. And we know that all of those substances still cause a lot of damage until your brain is done growing. And so maybe you match the voting and serving on a jury and in the military age to
25.
To 25 instead.
But still, those substances, not just until your brain's done growing, they'll kill a 40-year-old just as quickly.
After that, yeah. But they're especially harmful to your cognitive capacities.
And what Bobby Kennedy, R. Kennedy, is saying is that all of the processed foods and everything that's been in our foods and the addictive substances and all that stuff is what's causing that brain damage, that chronic diseases in our bodies from our childhood that we've been fed. It's systematic.
Yeah.
We've been fed to things that are hurting all of us, and we don't even know it. We haven't known it. We do know it. We know that you can eat better, you can do better, and we should. And it's those building years, those growing years, that once you break that and you get type 2 diabetes when you're 7, you got it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Those are specific issues. We don't.
Specific issues are what creates laws.
It's what create. Yeah, and that's what people are concerned about. And enough people being concerned about a certain thing is going to create a party, a caucus, a group of people that are going to vote a certain way. And so you start talking to that group of people and promoting that this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
The libertarian idea, he's got good ideas, but he doesn't have, and the party itself doesn't have a plan on how to scale it back. Like this 2025 thing, which isn't Trump's idea. It's the think tank Heritage Foundation. They write it every year, but it's how to create a more conservative thing. It could be really the track to libertarianism, because they're saying close down all this stuff. They're just saying get government out of the way. So I don't know. What do you know about the 2025 project?
I read a little bit about it. I went onto the website and read through it because when Kamala mentioned it in her speech, I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like the platform. It sounds like something else.
Yeah.
She's against it, but they're saying in that Project 2025 thing, this is not a Trump thing. This is an everybody thing. Like Democrats are supporting it too. Is that right? Some of them?
Well, it's a non-denominational, it's non-political think tank, Heritage Foundation, just a foundation talking about how to move our government more conservative and less social. I think that's what they're after. They're after a conservative world, which would be a more libertarian world. I haven't studied it completely, but in my understanding, I think the libertarians should love those processes, and that's the process you'd have to go to get libertarian. You'd have to close everything.
Yeah.
And that's what they're talking about. That's why Kamala is afraid of it. That's why Waltz, it was interesting how he put that too. He said, you don't write a playbook and intend not to use it. So the playbook, the 2025, he says that is their playbook. It's not their platform. They're not saying they're trying to distance themselves from it. But you don't write a playbook and not want to use it. And I'm just saying, clearly the libertarians want to use that platform even more so than the Republicans do, to close big government and close socialism. Socialism just identifies that we want to rob from the rich and give to the poor. The other thing that Trump pointed out, and it is pointed out in the Republican platform, is that if you tax big business is going to leave. There's going to be different places that they're disincenting people to come to the U.S. And the Democratic platform talks against trickle-down economics, which Reagan made popular, and it works. They say it doesn't work. It never worked. So which side of that is misinformation? Does it work or does it not work? Is trickle down a valid concept? Do you understand that concept?
It's like those big words that I read in books where like I understand
I think I know what it means.
Generalness of it, but like if you ask me to define it, then I'd probably have a hard time defining it. I can define the feeling of it, but
So how does it feel to you? I'd like to explore that.
Trickle down.
How does trickle down feel to you? What does it mean? Let's try to define it. Because I have a feeling too.
I think it means the more money that because, the words trickling down imply that getting more money into up will benefit down.
Yeah.
Right?
More money into up will benefit down. And what is up and down? What's up?
Up. Maybe
in regard to the economy.
Maybe the rich people.
Maybe the rich people.
The wealthy. Up is maybe the wealthy and down is the poor.
Okay, wealthy and poor. And is that the way the economy runs, with wealthy and poor people? That's the way the Democrats are seeing it. They're saying it that here's this wealthy people. We're going to give the wealthy people more money, and we're going to expect the wealthy people to give more money to the poor. No, that's robbing from the rich, giving to the poor. That's the socialist side. Let's automatically pull money from the rich and let's give it to the poor, because they're not going to do it automatically. And they're realizing that. And that's what the platform is based on, is that's not going to happen. So your thought is wrong. Try to think it again.
Try to think it. You're going to make me change my mind without any other outside influence.
Correct.
Besides that's
change
wrong.
Your mind. Just state it. I believe that's wrong. So let's just say that there's got to be another option. What's another option? Economically, what's up and what's down?
Up. Gas prices. Gas prices are up. And
what's down?
And lumber is up and candy is down. So
candy is down? You can buy candy for cheap? right now.
Cheaper than lumber.
Okay. I think candy prices have gone up too. You can't buy a candy bar for 50 cents anymore. They're $1, $1.50, $1.80.
Yeah, the
So
dollar
no,
store is not $1 anymore.
it's not $1 anymore.
It's
Yeah.
$1.25.
I went to the dollar store to buy a wallet, and that wallet cost $10.
$10 at the dollar store.
Yeah. But that's the only wallets they have. They didn't have the cheap dollar wallets anymore. They don't have that cheap stuff. They have $10 wallets. So I bought a $10 wallet at the dollar store.
All right. I looked it up on Wikipedia.
Okay. What does it say? Trickle down economics.
It was popularized in the U.S. in reference to supply side economics and...
Right. Okay. So what's supply and demand? Don't read anymore.
Okay, I'm not reading anymore. My eyes are
That's
averted.
enough to create your... Yeah. That's enough to create your idea, the concept that I'd like to propose that I see it as. So what's up and down in regard to the supply side? What's the opposite of the supply side? Or what's the other?
The demand.
Demand side. So the supply demand cycle, how is that economically up and down?
If demand is up, then supply, that's because supply is down, right?
Yeah, supply would be seen as less than necessary. So supply would have to be increased because demand is up.
Right.
So if demand's up, then does supply benefit? Do the companies offering supply benefit from that demand being up? Necessarily they do, because they can sell more products. They can just turn on their machines a little bit faster and they will be able to sell everything they produce.
Yeah.
So let's say supply is up.
If supply is up and then demand diminishes because there's enough, does it trickle down to demand?
Yeah. How does it trickle down to demand? What causes it? How to supply? So let's say supply is up. You have all kinds of toilet paper available in the marketplace.
Yeah, then the prices go down.
The prices go down. So that increases demand. The fact that now more people can buy it. Now the lower class, the middle people who are using, instead of toilet paper, they're using newspaper or they're using leaves. They can actually buy toilet paper because it's inexpensive enough that now the poverty people can use it.
Oh, they're using family cloth though, which is superior to toilet paper.
Family cloth?
Because you don't have to buy toilet paper ever again.
Okay. Well, good. Yeah.
Well, good.
And as soon as there's a, what does he call it? Family cloth?
Family cloth. Yes.
Is that a brand? Is that something that's actually out there?
It's homemade toilet paper. It's just rags that you use to wipe your butt and then you wash them in your washing machine.
Okay. Just like you do with a baby. Yeah. If you use the baby wipes that are reusable.
Right.
And the diapers that are reusable. So you rinse them off in a bucket and then you wash them and use them again.
Yeah.
So if you made that a brand, let's say you made that a brand, family cloth, and you increase the supply of that and you made it cheaper than toilet paper.
Because it is cheaper than toilet paper.
Even if you wash it, even if you consider the washing expense. Yeah. And you advertise it that way and you make people understand it. And can you increase demand on that? You could probably increase demand if you told that story the right way enough, right?
Yeah.
So that's trickle-down economics.
Trickle-down is creating a story that makes people want to buy what you have.
Yeah, that's the one side of it is increasing something, not necessarily creating the story. It's increasing the supply or increasing the demand based on the story. So if demand gets out of whack, then supply has to catch up, and supply is paid for catching up. If supply gets out of hand, way too much, and that's what we're talking about, energy independence. If you have way too much oil in the market, and actually the Democrat platform says that we've released our oil reserves to ease the price on gas at the pumps.
Uh-huh.
So they said they used it for that purpose. What Trump says in regard to when they released those strategic oil reserves, they sent it to somewhere else, Africa. They sent it off internationally. They sold it to get more money so they can provide more services. So they paid for a program by selling the strategic reserves, not putting it into the supply. And so which side of that story is true? Which one is misinformation? Which one is true? You don't know.
I don't know.
Okay. The other real way of trickle-down economics is employer-employee relationships. That's what trickle-down economics relates to.
It's not supply. Is it also supply and demand, but then also employer-employee?
Yeah. And it's
That's what you're saying.
Probably also the other things that you talked about too.
Okay.
It can be anything. Trickle down just means if you have a position of strength, that position of strength can then benefit as it raises the changes the other aspects of it. If a company's making so much money, if you can make corporations excessively rich, they're not just going to sit in their glass houses and not do anything. They're going to say, well, we can increase demand. Now we can create more supply of electric vehicles. So since we have a bigger supply of electric vehicles, we can lower the price. We can sell more of them. We can access more of the marketplace. And because of that, we need 100,000 more employees this month to open this new factory, to build it first, and then to open it, run it, and operate it. We need 250,000 people. So let's get that done. That's trickle down. It says, let's make sure that the companies are very strong, kind of like the tier one. If a company at tier one is very strong, then tier two, it can go out and get employees. It can build itself. But it's strengthening the business. If you hurt that business, tax it inordinately, it's going to find another place to operate that's not taxed. Doesn't have such a tax burden.
So what Wikipedia is saying is that this is economic policies that disproportionately favor the upper tier of the economic spectrum, comprising wealthy individuals and large corporations. And the idea is that spending by these groups, the upper tier, will trickle down to those less fortunate in the form of stronger economic growth.
See, that's a weird writing. I would disagree with that writing.
Well,
is that Wikipedia?
It's slanted.
Is it Wikipedia?
Yeah, this is and Wikipedia is written by people.
By whoever wanted to put that. So the slant on that is robbing from the rich, giving to the poor. It says, let's give more money to the rich people so that they can buy more things, which is going to benefit more of the people that are selling those things, which is sometime going to be the lower income people. That's just from the consumer standpoint. It's not the employer standpoint. That company or that wealthy person, that wealthy individual is going to have an idea to open a business, and he's going to be able to. He can open a business tomorrow and hire 20 people to put in it, and that'll happen. That's what trickle-down economics is. It's innovation. It builds businesses. It builds growth. Donald Trump doesn't just have his $1 billion or 10 billion or whatever just sitting in a bank. It's in buildings. He probably personally, I don't know, how many people do you think he employs?
Yeah, probably a lot.
Tens of thousands, probably. I don't know if 100,000, but 100,000 people probably work in all his hotels and properties and stuff. He's a major employer. And it's not that he's a bad person because he's employing those people. He's making 10 billion, but he's paying $30 billion off of the gross revenues to everyone else in his employ. Microsoft, even Facebook, there are hundreds of thousands of employees at Facebook.
Yeah, the more money the owner of the company is making, or the company itself, the corporation, the more money the corporation is making, the more money they can give their employees.
The more money their employees are already earning. You don't get to be a $30 million CEO unless you have 200,000 or 500,000 employees, all making a living wage, all in the middle class. So yeah, banks make a lot of money. Insurance companies make a lot of money. Any financial sector business making a lot of money. Their CEOs are all making over $1 million a year. And if you cut their pay, saying that CEO doesn't deserve to make $1 million, let's make him make $150,000 a year. That's going to disincent that CEO from, well, if you do it to just one person, that's just discrimination, doing it just the CEO.
Yeah.
But if you tell the company, your top salary can only be $200,000, no matter what they do. $200,000 is the maximum top salary you as a company can pay. They're not going to hire more people. They're going to scale down. They're going to say, well, okay, if I can only pay the top guy $200,000, then instead of, we're paying him $20 million right now, and we're paying $50 million to employees. If 200,000 now is the top and 50,000 is the number of employees, we're going to drop 4.5 million employees out of this. 450,000 employees are going to lose their job because now we don't have enough ability to serve that market. Yeah, I don't know. That's not a logical statement I just made. It doesn't make sense.
Huh. Okay.
But if you're a company that's good enough to pay $20 million to your CEO,
then you're probably paying enough of your employees.
It means you're paying a lot to all your employees too. It's a large company. It needs a $20 million person to maintain the control of it and keep it together, and to talk to CNN and talk to all the world, about how that's all together. And you can't put a DEI person, you can't just put anyone in that $20 million position. If you try to put a $200,000 CEO in the $20 million position, it would not work at all. This doesn't work. You have to start as a $200,000 CEO first. Show that you can do that. Yeah, you can't take the high school football coach that won a championship and put him as vice president of the United States. It doesn't work. Wasn't that funny? It had to be funny.
Well, I still don't know if I agree with you or not.
Oh, okay, so. You can.
I can't laugh at it. If I agreed with you, then I'd be like, oh yeah, that's so stupid. But like, football coaches do have some experience that are important.
Talking about his speech, did you have any feeling about Walz's speech? He identified what it was when he ended it. He said, obviously, I don't give speeches like this, but I've gotten a lot of pep talks. So his speech was a pep talk, and that's really all he can do.
Well, does the vice president even do anything?
Right.
That goes back to my question. Do presidents even have any power? Can they even follow through with everything that they promise to do?
The answer is they don't intend to. In the first place, they don't intend to, and they can't. It's the balance of powers. They can do executive orders, they can write executive orders, and they can generate policy in their cabinet. Their cabinet can write policy, and that's been a problem with the government. That can be just as Orwellian in them writing the policies and creating regulations. Trump's requirement to his cabinet and to his industry, well, and clearly based on even what the Democrats agree, he had less in federal employee when he ended than when he started. So he's scaling back. He deregulated. If you deregulate, you're going to have fewer federal employees. The promise of the Democratic platform is we're going to have increasingly more federal employees. They want to let the federal government be the only employer of anybody in the country. And so everyone has a federal job that they can go to, and it has all these excellent benefits that are being paid for.
So just like voting in a libertarian is not going to automatically make this a libertarian government, voting in a Democrat isn't going to automatically make every job a federal job. And voting in a Republican isn't automatically going to
privatize the government. Yeah, well, privatize is the libertarian thing, but moving isn't necessarily going to move forward towards that privatization very quickly, or as quickly as you would expect or you would want. I want the country. I mean, I'm a libertarian at heart, I would suppose. I want the country to be privatized. I want the government to get out of everything it can get out of. Let it be served individually. Let all charity, all welfare be handled by charities on the local level. Close down all the national welfare type programs and let the states do it if the states want to do it, or if the cities want to do it, let the city on the city level identify at the county level, have a program that we can help the people in our county that are having problems.
Yeah. So I think libertarians are going to get us there faster than Republicans.
Except it's impossible to go faster. Closing the NEA, I mean, I know Trump's got a plan on how to close the NEA, how to shut it down. He shut down Roe v. Wade, shut down that federal requirement on all the states, saying, let's get the power back to the states. And of course, the Democrats are saying that was an affront against women. What do you feel about that Roe v. Wade being canceled? Since you're a woman, you've had children.
I haven't been paying attention to that issue because it doesn't concern me. And I know that that's wrong.
It should concern you.
It's wrong of me.
You believe it should concern you?
I believe that people are generally upset at other people that don't care about issues if it doesn't concern you. Roe versus Wade, a state law that broadly prohibits abortion without respect to the stage of pregnancy or other interests, violates that right.
What's the right that's violated?
I don't know if Roe v. Wade is pro-abortion or anti-abortion.
Okay.
Which one is it?
You don't know enough about it to identify whether it was a good law or a bad law in the start, right?
The two rights that hang in the balance is the right of the woman to decide what to do with her body, and the other one is the right of the fetus to live.
Right. Okay, so that's pro-life or pro-choice. So Roe v. Wade, the question is, well, and you don't know whether Roe v. Wade was pro-choice or pro-life.
Right. I don't know which one. I know that people were rather upset when it got overturned. So I'm betting that it was pro-choice.
Yeah, so it was the pro-choice people that are upset. The pro-life people say, excellent, we got rid of that law that allows for abortions and requires that it's available everywhere, that the woman has the right over that fetus and the child has no power.
And really, this was just a national thing. Like, now states can decide.
Yeah, it was just taking out of the federal. So now they said send it to the states. And now the big question, the problem is that they say 8 or 10 states now have eliminated have gone to the pro-choice or to the pro-life stance, and women in those states have no more choice.
Right.
It's not they don't have any choice. They can still, I don't know. It's just the fetus is important, and you're doing that at the local government. So it's still the same problem. It's just what Trump did and why he says I'm proud of it. And they say he's proud that he's taken rights away from women. So they're framing it that way. They're spinning it that way.
Yeah.
He's not proud he's taken rights away from women. He's given women more rights by letting the states, letting the local governments cover that. And then you can choose which state you want to live in. You can move to South Carolina or wherever. You move somewhere that will have a law that says abortions are free in our state.
Moving to another place is really, really hard, though.
Is it hard?
It is. It's difficult. I was looking up which countries are the most libertarian, and what I came across was New Hampshire is the most libertarian state. And I'm like, man, that would be impossible to move to New Hampshire. It's so far away. I would be leaving behind everything that I value, like my family and my security. And I mean, it would be, it's possible to move across the country just so that you could have more freedoms, but it's impossible to do that because your freedoms actually don't matter as much as your relationships.
Right. So prioritizing. And that's where, does this really matter? You're still on the question, does the president have any power? It's almost like, do we have any power over the world climate? We don't have power over the world climate, so let's not worry about that. The president doesn't have power over the government, so let's not worry about that. But he does write executive orders. He does elect his cabinet. I thought it was also interesting. The Democratic platform says he fired everyone that wasn't of his mindset when Trump took office. Well, every person does that. When Biden got in, he fired all the Trump people.
Yeah.
You bring in your own people. And then, and you can break things by proposing DEI, I think the diversity, equity, inclusion idea, and having quotas. You have to have this many women in your workforce or in your cabinet, this many gay people in your cabinet. And he says the federal government is going to be an example for diversity. So they're hiring women and alternative people and Indians. He says we have more Native American Indians working for us than anyone else in the presidency and the federal government's ever had, because they're searching out that you've got to find the people to invite to work for you. They're not applying. That's why I asked that question of a woman in the workforce recently.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that the positions you've held in the workforce have been because you earned it or because you were placed there? He says, well, definitely I've earned it. And the way she put it is someone who's a disadvantaged person needs to build their advantage up. She says in the workforce that she's in, she's overqualified for every position she's applied for, where men, on the other hand, will say, I think I could probably do that. And they're underqualified for it and they'll apply for it before they're ready. Says before I've ever applied for anything, I made sure I was overqualified, and had plenty of capacity to accomplish the task that was required by that position. And I've always gotten the position. So that's the difference. That's someone who's not looking for a handout. She's in control of her life. She's more libertarian in that idea. I'm going to be fully in control of what I'm doing. I know I can do it. And I'm going to request that I receive that honor, that merit, based on merit.
Yeah.
Rather than based on the fact of my discriminated status, I want to sit in that position. I want to be that $20 million CEO. Please give me that spot.
Yeah, that was a choice that she made. She worked to do it the right way. If she had applied for positions that she was underqualified for, do you think she would have gotten it based on diversity requirements?
That's the question. And that's what I heard from someone else discussing their experience in the Army, that there are Army leadership I don't even know what they're called, colonels or whatever they are in the Army, that were put in leadership based on their diversity status, and they're not doing the job. They're not able to do the job, and they're not trustworthy. They're not standing up to it. And it's what J.D. Vance talks against Walz as he prepared. He was the leader over the group that was getting ready for deployment, and he prepared them all the way up to deployment, and then he retired just before the deployment. And you say, so giving someone else the command of that group that, you're supposed to work together, cohesive unit, and you take that unit to war, and then you can accomplish the task that you're asked to do. But he broke that just before going, and who knows what the truth is there, what the misinformation is. Did he have other reasons to cancel, and he felt really, really bad that he wasn't able to go to war? Or did he skate the draft and, move out as is supposed? Who knows? That's not something we can know probably.
Right. And doesn't even matter.
So
it's just a character attack.
It's just a fact. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. So that's what we talk about, whether the president actually has power. Does that matter or not? If he really does have power or not? Who is it that said, someone recently, it doesn't matter whether she has any policy positions or not. They're trying to win the election. They're going to win the election with a popular vote, with this affinity feeling. We're talking to these people. There's enough of these people that want the socialists, that want the handouts, that want everything the government's promising to give them, because the platform clearly promises that. The middle class is going to be extended because we're going to start giving you more and more benefits.
Right.
The more benefits you can get, the better extension you're going to have. And so people who want that, who don't want to work for their life, but want to have it handed to them, they'll vote for that.
They will vote for that.
All the people who moved into the country illegally that want amnesty now, because Reagan gave amnesty in the 80s. He said, let's just give amnesty to everyone that's here, that's waiting for their naturalization. Let's let them apply. And so he just accepted them all in. That's what they're setting up to do again, but now with 20 million people instead of, a million or two. I don't know how much it was in the 80s. The number wasn't important.
Yeah.
Now the number's much more important. But if they give amnesty to them and they say, yeah, you can all apply for citizenship, within 6 months you'll all be full-on citizens, that's more a libertarian idea. But they weren't vetted, they weren't cleared, they just walked across the border. Just anyone who wants to walk in.
Yeah. If Libertarian had a chance to win, would you vote for them instead of the other two? Or
for 50 years, the Libertarians have been there with the same concept, the same role, and they're the same idea. My official view from my brain is the Libertarians should just wake up and change the Republican Party, change the party that's going to be closest to that they can affect, and get an actual process in place that can work and promote that fully. So instead of, and he talked about a system, the ordered electoral system, where you don't vote for just one, but you vote in order. You say, first, I want the Libertarian on top. I'd take him first because that's my preference.
Right.
And then I'm going to vote for Trump next because he's next closest, and Biden third or Harris third because she's the bottom of the list. But Harris still gets one vote. Trump gets two. The Libertarian gets three because I hold Libertarian values. So, but changing the election system that way, that's a major change. Instead of just voting for one, you're voting in order, I think is how he put it. And that makes sense. It would make sense if we were able to vote that way.
Yeah.
And that's an election change that the Republicans or Democrats could promote if they talked about it. If it were talked about in the public sphere enough, it would work. And there could be models made to see if it would make a difference. If that were the system, I would vote Libertarian first and then Trump second.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that were the possibility, but there's no way that I can, you don't throw your vote away that way. You just overemphasize. You're putting a priority to something that you really believe strongly. But the Republican Party now has the closest libertarian principles. And the other party, Democrats, have zero libertarian principles. Their whole point is against liberty, even though they say wholeheartedly, we're 100% for liberty. We love the USA. We love the people. We're governed by and voted by the people. And what they're fully promoting now is no vote to the people. Let's just run the election and win an election. Let's run a good emotional campaign so that people can vote the things that they want that we're going to give them to a socialist government. And it's crazy that half of the country will be happy being socialist and don't know what liberty is. So we've talked a lot about this, and we haven't gone anywhere because there's really nowhere to get.
There is nowhere to get. I think people are going to vote what they feel like is right.
Yeah, the whole point now between the two parties is they're trying to win an election. They're following strategy and whatever's necessary to win an election. Policy doesn't really matter, but the fact that you have policy, and that's where Kamala's got to come up with something, some reason, some way to convince people that she has a brain and has the ability to talk and to speak and to operate, though she doesn't need it to be president, because for the last 4 years, we haven't had anyone that could do that either.
Right.
And the government operated. When Trump gets in there, he'll know what he's doing. He's going to be able to accomplish things, and he'll be talking all the time again.
Yeah.
And people know what he's saying, and they'll say he's railroading us. He's just bulldozing over everything. He's just dictating, trying to be the authoritarian, just that he's talking instead of hiding. So he'll have just as much or just as little influence as the president who doesn't say anything.
Yeah. So there's no right choice when it comes to, well, no. What you would say is definitely not Democrat. There's absolutely a right choice, and it's Republican, because libertarians can't win.
Yeah, even though you have affinity towards libertarian, you want small government, you want everything the libertarians stand for, if 10 of us vote for that, it doesn't help anybody.
Uh-huh.
And it takes 10 votes per city away from the potential candidate that's best, closest, that has a chance to win. And that's what RFK made the choice. There's no chance he had, no path he has to the presidency directly. So he's got to suspend and support the one that's closest to what he wants to accomplish, even though his whole family has disowned him now, or a lot of them.
Yeah.
Because he switched to the Republican side and is not Democratic, and he's not. But I think that caring for the people is what the Democrats think they're doing. The Republicans now are caring for the people much more than the Democrats. The Democrats are just trying to rob from the rich and pay to the poor, and they're trying to make all of us poor. Same time.
Equality.
We've got to, that's the equality idea. Got to bring everyone to the same level, and it's going to be a worldwide level as opposed to a national level. They're not going to say, let's not raise anything. They're going to lower us so that they can share all the money with Venezuela and Brazil and Africa. The Congo has to be equal with us on a global scale. And there's just too much going on, and all of it going on. It is an election. We're not voting our consciences or our beliefs or our faith. We're putting our faith in the best option that's available.
For some people, it's identity. Like your identity is Republican or Democrat. And it's, you're going to vote. You're going to vote for your party and not for the policies, because you're a Republican. That's who I am. That's who my family is.
Except the policies do exist. There is a major difference between the Republican platform and the Democratic platform. There's a difference there, and you can choose which person you want to be, which country you want to promote. There's still both government. I mean, there's things you can say is bad about both of them, and that's what the libertarians are saying. They're both bad. The gun is going to go off. But it doesn't have to. You can work with one of them. The other one, you can work with the other one if you decide that you want to be a globalist socialist. That's just fine. But I don't think there's any way you can describe that other platform as anything but globalist socialist. All of it points to that. They're not saying slow down anything. They're bigger government, more federal involvement in everything, because that's what's necessary to solve our big problem. That's this climate challenge. And so we have to do this. We have to operate as a globe. We can't operate as a nation anymore because there's a bigger problem over us. So forget about the Republicans, forget about this election. We've got a problem to solve, and it's bigger than all of us. And we can solve it if we all work together and get ourselves so that we're using all our money on that problem, and everyone lives on $100,000 a year. But that's all you get. Yeah, it does feel like we're turning this into a black and white situation. It's a false dichotomy where you only have these two options.
And most people believe that.
Okay.
And I think that's your point too, is that you have these two options. And if you thought you had a third option,
Okay.
it's not going to get you anywhere.
I'm sorry that you're opening that can of worms, but that's an open discussion. There are only two options. There are never three. You can never have three options.
Why not?
In anything, you have up and down.
Even in anything? What about
because
sideways?
we're in a third dimensional. We're in a four dimension. Do we have four dimensions? We have three dimensions in this world.
We have three acknowledged dimensions.
Right. The fourth dimension, we don't know what it is yet. We can't figure that out. But really, in those three dimensions, you have two dimensions. You only have up and down, or left and right. You don't have left and right and up. You can't describe in the political environment when you're talking about a policy is on a pendulum from tyranny to liberty. And that's the only pendulum you have. So you can have millions of positions on that continuum, but the continuum is just two sides.
It's yay or nay, right?
Yeah. And our two sides are defined here for left and right. There's a right wing and there's central, centrist. They say we should be pulling more to the center. And they say that's the problem with Kamala is she selected Tim Walz as a far left person than her, saying they want to really promote this full socialist concept, this full tyrannical concept, as opposed to liberty. And the 2025 platform is full on the conservative side. On the full liberty side, let's get government out of everything. And libertarians state that, and they know they're on the far right of that continuum, but they're on the continuum. They're still in the same game. It's not a third party. It's the same thing, and he's just splintering off pieces of trying to be further to one side or the other. So the Libertarian Party by itself should commingle with the Republican Party and make it more directly planned towards full liberty, pull it further right instead of letting it go progressive at all. Libertarians don't want to go backwards either. They want to go forwards, but they want to go forwards with local rule. And that's really what declining Roe v. Wade was send it back to the states. Let it be local. Let it be a local decision.
Yeah.
And everything else, deregulation, you're going to get federal regulation out of the education system and let the local governments take care of it. And everything that can be done that way, privatized or sent back, the federal government should erase it. We don't need Homeland Security, probably. We may not need the FBI because state and county polices and local police departments can handle what's going on. We've got the military to handle the foreign requirements. And we have NCIS. Why do you need the FBI? So that's my real opinion on why the third party, there's really not a third party. It's on the same exact continuum.
Yeah.
They're Republicans. They just want to be called something different because their ego is that big.
They're egotistical.
Yes. Yeah.
But still there are a lot of freedoms that Republican policies take away.
And if that's the case, they need to be changed. Do you know one of them by chance? A Republican policy that is not conservative or not liberty-based.
It's not liberty. You're putting me on the spot.
Right. I haven't read through these platforms to see if there was any libertarian principles, but I guess as I looked at it, I see a lot of libertarian principles in the Republican platform. It's the chance of winning. It's not a bad thing that there are only two. It's like unconditional love exists. You can't make it, and joy exists. You can't create joy. You can only receive it. So there are absolutes in the world that just operate. This absolute of a dichotomy. There are no trichotomies in the world, in our physics, in our environment, in our universe. There's no trichotomies. There's dichotomies. There's vacuum or atmosphere. There's no third option.
Well, as far as you and I understand, there might be that we don't.
There might be
know
a fourth
about.
Midimension.
Well,
sure.
There might be something already there that a bunch of people know about that we just haven't encountered
that
yet.
You and I have missed.
That our individuals
no chance.
Haven't. Did you say no chance?
No chance that we haven't experienced that. Yeah. So that's my strong view. There are only two options ever.
I understand. I don't know if my mind has changed on that. Well, I'm certain that it's not changed on that, but I don't know.
Test it and come up with a third option. Because if the third option's good, then this, who is the other guy? Berman Supreme is just as valid.
Yes.
I didn't even look into what he proposes.
You just skipped over completely all of Vermin Supreme's important ideas.
I did. Maybe I'll have to look at them and see if there's a fourth option, if there's a fourth dimension here. But
well, it's a good thing for you that he will give everyone a pony, whether they believe in him or not. You know, if he's president, everyone gets a pony.
Wow.
And it's a good thing for you that will happen whether you like it or not.
Okay.
Whether you understand his policies or not. So.
And where is he going to get these ponies from?
Well, there's a whole thing about we're going to have to work on like our artificial insemination with other mammals because, you know, right now we don't have enough ponies to give everyone a pony. But if we work in the labs and we can
create them.
We can create them and use other mammals to grow them, you know.
What was the name of the sheep that they cloned?
Dolly.
So they could clone ponies, give a cloned pony to everyone.
Yes.
And it would take just probably $1 billion, not 10 billion. 1 billion could probably get everyone in the country a pony.
Yeah. And everyone will have excellent dental hygiene because there's going to be dental hygiene oversight, like people overseeing that. Everyone's going to have to, you know, brush their teeth better.
At night. So someone right there in your house helping you brush your teeth.
And checkpoints to make sure that your teeth are clean.
Yeah. Okay.
And that is really important because it's really hard to eat when you have cavities. So it's essential that we have good teeth.
See?
That's an essential part of life is being able to eat food. And the step toward that is making sure that your teeth are taken care of. So it's good that the government is going to take care of that for us. And you probably haven't heard of his zombie energy program either, huh?
No. Is there some way he's going to use zombies?
Instead of nuclear or fossil fuels, we're going to harness the power of zombies and put them on treadmills. And that's how we're going to, because they're always walking.
And just let them keep walking?
So,
yeah.
So that's how we're going to power the world is with zombie energy. Plus, it gets them off of the streets. So
the real zombies are not walking, unfortunately. The real zombies are laying there because they're, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Let's not talk about zombies.
Another time. We'll discuss zombies another time.
Yeah, that's for another conversation. That campaign is very important because of comic relief is the only reason.
Yeah.
And he'd have just as much power as any other president.
Absolutely.
To do all those things he's promised.
Yep.
There's no way he's going to be able to accomplish any of what he's saying, but he's just defining that as it's also true from the two primary candidates.
Yeah.
There's no way they can accomplish anything they're saying.
Right.
But they're trying to win an election. And that's I forgot who it was that pointed out some large, it wasn't Russell Brand, but someone kind of like that. Russell Brand is on the Republican side, someone on the Democratic side that was just talking, saying, it doesn't even matter what policy she's saying. She's winning an election.
Yep.
This election is going to be won. And it's won on these platforms, whether you want to be a socialist globalist or a liberty-bearing nationalist. So that's the way I frame it.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It's winning a contest.
Yeah, and you're on one side or the other continuum, and you can spread your vote to whoever you want on that, even the Berman Supreme, way in the comic sector in the fourth dimension. Or to Chase Oliver.
Yep.
On the libertarian side, which is just farther right than Trump, or with Trump in the moderate right, or RFK in the middle, which are kind of joining forces and saying, let's pull this group of people. There's got to be enough people that are after liberty to choose the right side that's actually going to win, because it would be worse if you not throw your vote away, if you utilize your vote in a way that allows the other 50% of the country. And it's crazy that we're split 50-50 on that there's that many people who want socialism and globalism.
Yeah.
And are afraid of the world we live on, that live by fear. So that's what we are.
Yeah. Okay. It's a lot of stuff.
But I think I talked about most everything that was on my mind, and hopefully you got all your questions, all your mind out too.
Yeah.
Did you?
I
feel like we discussed it.
I just want to say one thing. I think politics is a cult.
Politics is a cult.
Everyone who thinks about politics are part of a cult. The cult of thinking of politics. I think none of it matters, and really we should just all carry on doing the best that we can.
Yeah. And in my professional position, that's my official stance, is it doesn't matter who wins the presidency. The economy's going to move forward.
Yeah.
And we're going to maintain what's going with the economy appropriately. So it doesn't really matter what happens here. This is like a football game that's happening, and one team's going to win. There's going to be a winner. Super Bowl gets won by somebody, but it doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
In reality, it doesn't matter one bit. So
good. Well, glad that we got that out of the way. Now we know. Let's just put that at the front of the podcast and cut it down to 10 seconds, and we got it.
Yeah. But let this one be the one that's really just a minute long. Because all the other stuff is garbage. We've discussed this for 2 hours, and we determined it's all garbage. This minute is all that matters.
This is the only thing that everyone needs to know.
Don't worry about it. Quit worrying about it. That was David Bednar's big statement. Quit worrying about it.